Hi all, Mr. Shahar here again, back with you for the first time since the first lesson. Welcome to lesson 7. Today we're going to do some little kind of technical things that will help you in terms of drawing your projects next year for year 11, or if you're in earlier years for any project that you might be doing. It's based around if you change your design as you go along for whatever reason. It might be that you don't have the material in stock. It might be that you didn't think it might be strong enough. It might need to be thicker or thinner. You can change those measurements without actually having to start all over again from scratch with your CAD, which as we all know would be disappointing to find out if you'd finished a project and then realize that you had to draw it all again. That's not the case. We can do something as we start a project that can really help you as you go along. That if you do need to change anything, that you can just go back and edit that, and then it will be fine for the rest. So you've seen a lot of what I'll do today in terms of sketching, extruding, stuff like that. So I won't talk too much over that stuff, and that should be all pretty much covered in the first 6 lessons. But the stuff that I am going to cover that's new, I will talk you through in detail. Okay. So I'm just going to do a finger joint today. So you would have done finger joints for your practice joints before you did your tools. So I'm just going to do 2 finger joint, basically 2 rectangular pieces of wood joined together, and then we'll add some parameters and some modifies and combines as we go along. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle. Either of these planes is fine. I'm going to click on the one on the left. I'm going to drag. Okay, and really quickly guys, if that done there, that's 150 by 120. That should be no problem for any of us at this stage. Something that's new now guys. So as I was describing to you earlier on, you might need to change your project or your CAD as you go along. So for instance, if I wanted to make this finger joint out of 20mm pine, what I would do is, instead of just extruding this 20mm, I would tell the CAD software that at the time being, I intend my project to be 20mm thick, but that could change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify. I'm going to go to change parameters. There will be no parameters in any use at this point. Okay, so what you need to do now is add some parameters. So there's a little plus sign beside user parameters. Just click on that. Name. Now, what I'm going to concern this lesson with is the thickness of the material. So I'm going to name this parameter thickness. I want the units to be millimeters because that's what we work with here at Repton. 18. I'm going to change that to 20. We'll say 20 for width of our material. Comment you don't need to enter, and just press OK. Press OK down here again, and that's fine. Now, it might not be very clear what I've just after doing there, so I'll show you exactly what it is. If I go to extrude my piece now, so you can either press Q or go to create and extrude, whichever one you're more used to. Click on the surface that you intend to extrude, and usually now we would type in the value of the thickness of the material that we want. But now, instead of doing that, I'm just going to start to type thickness, and you'll see that it pops up. Thickness user parameter pops up. Okay, if you click on that, it will automatically change your piece to being 20mm in thickness. Okay, now I'm going to leave it as a new body. Don't need to change that, and I'll explain what the parameters mean in just a little while when I finish off my finger joint. So I'm going to press OK, and that's one part of my project complete. Next part I want to do is I want to sketch on top of this surface here to do my finger joint. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to say create sketch. I'm going to draw a rectangle of the same size as my last one, so you can start top or bottom, doesn't matter, it's up to you guys. Pull it across, and very quickly I'll just change the dimensions to being 150 by 120. I've noticed guys, some of you have little problems with the dimension tool sometimes. If it's not working when you press D, just press escape a couple of times, and it gets it back to normal, just like it happened to me there. So that'll make things a bit easier on you. Next thing I'm going to do guys, I'm going to draw a line across the piece. I'm going to draw a line straight from here, this corner, all the way down to there, coincident with the piece that's lying underneath. Okay, and that will make sense in just 1 minute when I finish off what I'm doing for my finger joint here. The next part I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to draw some lines. I'm going to draw a line, one across here, another one is around the center, and another one down here anywhere, guys. It doesn't matter too much, we can change the dimensions afterwards. Now this piece is 120 millimeters wide. I want 4 separate sections, so I'm going to dimension those sections from here to here. The first one to be 30. The center one will already be fine if you've drawn that line in the center. If you haven't, you'll just have to dimension that 30 from there. And then this one here, guys, from the edge as well, I want to be 30. Okay, now I have the start of a finger joint there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press home, and I'm going to look at my drawing from this angle so it gives you a better view of what's actually going on. Now I'm going to press Q on my keyboard this time instead of going to extrude. I'm going to click on the surfaces that I want. So I want this surface to be cut away out of the, cut into the piece. I want this one, and this one. Now I'm going to leave those two blank. I don't need to touch those. And now distance, guys. If I say T for thickness this time, and press this, it goes up. Don't want that to be the case, guys. I want it to go down. So you say negative thickness, and it will go down into the piece. Okay, I do not want it to cut as an operation just yet. I want this to be a new body so that I can use this body to cut out the shapes that I want while still keeping this body. So I'm going to press, instead of cut, I'm going to press new body, and I'm going to press OK. So I have two pieces interlocking at the minute, and if I go to my bodies menu over here and I turn them on and off, body 2 or body 1 is the one that's active now, is not the final shape that it should be. Body 2 is the final shape that it will be. So it's body 1 that we need to change. And how we do that is we go to modify, combine, and after that, guys, we need to select what's our target body and what's our tool body. Now our target body is the one that we want the material to be removed from, and if you remember from just a second ago, that was body 1. So if we click on body 1, that's our target body. Our tool body is the body that's actually going to be used to remove the material. Okay, so our tool body, if you can imagine, is body 2, and everywhere that that intersects into body 1 will then be cut away if we select body 2 as our tool. So I'm going to select body 2 as our tool. Now, at the minute, operation is telling us that we want to join. That's not what we want. As you can see now, the joint will then have disappeared and it won't be a finger joint anymore. What we want it to be is a cut. You can see the finger joint has now reappeared. But because this is in red, that means to us that it's going to disappear. That's not what we want. We want the sections of body 1 to disappear that body 2 is overlapping. But we need to keep body 2 as well at the end. So what we're going to do is press Keep Tools. And what that does, it doesn't really indicate on the drawing that it's changed, but what is actually happening now is that red tool will also be kept, which is exactly what we want. And I'm going to press OK. Now we can see that this actually looks more like a finished finger joint that you would have seen in lessons. Okay, so if I turn off body 2 now and look at body 1, it's exactly what we want it to be. It's exactly shaped so that body 2 can fit exactly into body 1. That's exactly what we want, guys. Okay, so that modify combine tool, guys, is really handy for us in terms of doing our projects. You don't have to draw all the joints individually, you just have to draw one, cut them into the next piece, and it will remove the material that you would have had to draw on otherwise, which makes things a lot easier. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my parameters. Why did I use those, or why did I do them? Imagine, for instance, you had a lot of these finger joints done for a big coffee table or some sort of project you might be doing for year 11. If you realized come near the day that you didn't have the material that you needed to use thinner material, or you needed to use thicker material, you might have a little bit of a panic and say, okay, I have to do all my drawings again because my material is different thickness. If you've done this from the start, you shouldn't have to panic, because what you can do is you can go to modify, change parameters. You're going to click into your parameter here, and say for instance we didn't have 20 anymore, we only had we'll make it a bit bigger, say 25. Now if I press OK, if you watch closely at the actual piece itself, it will change. The size of the pieces will change, but the joint will stay the same. That would not have happened if you didn't use parameters. Only one would have changed, and then the joint would not have fitted properly, and you would have got a load of error signs, which is not what you want. So if I turn off the bodies now again, we can see that both material thicknesses have changed, but the joint is still perfect. So it's really important, guys, if you're doing a really big project and you know that you're going to have a lot of joints and you're not 100% sure of what size material you're going to use, but you have an idea, you should create a parameter and make sure that you change it as you go along. I'm going to change it to 10 just so we can look at it this time. Press enter and press OK, and we see how it's changed here, guys. But the finger joint, importantly, is still perfect. Okay, they still fit together exactly as we want, so it's really, really handy too. Okay, the last thing I'll show you on this video, guys, is if, for instance, this is a big project and you might want these to be separate components instead of separate bodies, because at the minute my active component is the entire thing. I might want to have this different components so that when I go to make some drawings that you'll see later on in videos, that I want them to be separate components. So what you can do is you can go to your body in your design tree on the left hand side, right click on it and create components from bodies. If you click on that, you'll see that my body now has disappeared and it's turned into a component, and I'm going to do the same on body 2, right click, create components from bodies. Now my bodies are now gone, but I do have components. And if I click into my components, it's still there, but it's under that heading, component 1 and component 2. Now you can change the names of those to be whatever you like. So I can change these to be side 1 and side 2. Now I have two separate components. So components are more they're more identifiable than bodies. Bodies can be part of the same component. So if you're going to do a drawing, you have to include all your bodies together. If you have separate components, then you can take them individually and work with them. So for instance, if I turn on side 1 as my active component, side 2 will disappear. I can't work with side 2 at the minute, but I can work with side 1. Very handy for us going down the line, guys, to be able to do this. And if I turn on side 2, now side 1 is gone and I can work with side 2. But the entire project is still called unsaved up here because we haven't named it just yet. And if I activate that, the whole thing will be activated. So for instance, if this was saved as your coffee table or as your year 11 project, if you click this, it will all be active. And if you have all different components, you could highlight them and use whichever one you feel you need to use at a certain time. Okay, so that's using parameters, guys. It's very useful. So as you go along, remember that they can save you so much time if you use parameters when you're starting to design your projects. Okay, that's lesson 7, guys. Give it a go. It's not too difficult, but it is really, really useful. Okay, thank you very much. Let's keep an eye out for our next couple of videos, and they'll be doing some more technical little things like this. Just as you seem to have mastered a lot of the sketching processes and some of the creative tools in here as well. So thank you, guys.